Birthday, Bobby Sands. And what a day to kick off the St. Patrick's Day season. I'm filling the entire month with a celebration of my heritage, to the great dismay of my English bulldog. But I want you to see this right now, Bugley. I want you to see this. And don't you forget it. Our day will come. Our day will come. I'm telling you, I'm shitting you not. This dog loses his shit at a fiddle. He hears the sounds of Irish joy and it boils his blood, and senses him into a rage, just to the depths I've never seen. When I tell you that the hate for the Irish seeps down into the very bones of the English's dogs. It's sickening. It is just a sickness that this is always a tough time for me, Bugley. Every year, I always think he's gonna come around. He's gonna see my side of things. He's been living with his Irish mother for so long. He must have come to at least tolerate the season, and he will not do it. He will bark. He will try to tear it all down. And it's always a difficult time. It's something that we work through, we come through stronger. Um, but every year it takes me a little bit off guard, because he has such a pure, loving heart other than this. But it's really the heritage of his people that makes him so hateful, and I don't know what to do. Anybody else with an English bulldog, let me know. Um, because I've tried. I've actually gotten him on an anti-anxiety medication because I cannot play Irish films in this home. He hears the spoken Irish language and the dog goes psychotic. He goes into a full rage. I'm terrified. And I'm just trying to enjoy the season. I'm trying to enjoy a celebration of my people. And, he's just gotta tear it down with his bully like brutishness. And I don't appreciate it. I really don't. And yeah, it's got us a little bit of it's always a little bit divisive this time of year. But now that I've drugged Bugley up good and he is zenning out, dude. He is just like, out of this world, blasting off, and God love him for it. But now that I've done that, I've gotten a little bit of Irish horror going, and I would love to feature some standouts throughout the month, which I'm going to do. So I got some modern and classic folk horror that's been just fucking exceptional, by the way. I'm so excited to bring those to you guys. I'm also excited for a very exceptional eco horror that I discovered from like kind of one of my new favorite directors. So I really love this guy, his film, The Surfer. If you've seen it, it does not take place in Ireland, it takes place in Australia, but I loved that film. I saw it in the theater, loved it, fell in love with it. And then I discovered when I was looking up Irish horror movies, I'm like, what? He made an eco horror movie, like this very psychedelic eco horror movie. Oh my God, it was so good. Oh my God. I mean, that guy is seriously like, it's so exciting to me that I was like, I found a fellow countryman that's become one of my new faves. So I'm really excited about that. And then I also discovered an Irish language spoken crime film that was super fucking fun. It's got like organized crime on the peripheral and this very like clever, collected, retired detective at the center. Um, so I really got some truly beautiful works of art to showcase from the motherland straight to you guys. um, so look forward to that. But today I wanted to set aside some time to talk about the late great Bobby Sands. So all of you not familiar with Bobby Sands, how dare you? But hey, it happens. You're probably American, so I'll give you a little bit of a pass. But so Bobby Sands is an Irish revolutionary that sparked change in public perception and helped heal divides among the IRA, the Great IRA. And Bobby's brave hunger strike in 1981 lasted 66 days. And he may not have been with us long, but his legacy's forever. So here's two for you tonight that detail the harrowing efforts of our brave soldiers, capturing courage, integrity, resiliency in the name of freedom. Our prisoners of war won over the hearts of people all around the world, while history rightfully exposed the cruelty of the crown and cunt minister. Blah! Can't even say that bitch's name. The despicable Margaret Thatcher. Despicable. Disgusting. I will not be saying her name. Furthermore, in this household, I feel like I'm summoning a demonic spirit when I say it. I won't. I refuse to name her. She who must not be named. Okay? But let us unite. Let these filmmakers tell you a tale of history not so long ago. Brave people whose history may be marred by sorrow and tragedy, but our spirit has only become stronger. As Bobby said, I'll wear no convict's uniform, nor meekly serve my time that Britain might brand Ireland's fight 800 years of crime. Arun Gobrak was some other's son that came out in 1996 with Hunger that came out in 2008. How's my Gaelic, by the way? I've been practicing. I'm not very good at it yet. Normally, I have a pretty good ear for language, but I just can't get an ear for the accent. So, um, I've been practicing though. I know it's not great. It's maybe not up to par yet, but I'm trying, man. I'm trying, and you know what? My heart's in it. My blood's in it. So you know that it's coming from a real place. But let's get into some other son. So this doesn't exclusively focus on Bobby Sands, but of course he plays a major role nonetheless, because who can make a movie about the Troubles and the hunger strikes without Bobby Sands? But the film does choose to focus on the mothers of two hunger strikers, Mrs. Quigley and Mrs. Higgins. I love these two. Their sons, Jerry and Frank, respectively, are both imprisoned at Lunkash, where Jerry becomes cellmates with Bobby Sands. Um, Embrace for this trigger, please. I do feel like I must deliver this trigger warning. Very serious. The film does start with the true sickness. Of course, I'm referring to the grotesque pestilence that is She Who Must Not Be Named. Oh, God. I feel like I need a trash can nearby. Sick. But it's disturbing. It really is. It's disturbing that the film really utilizes her venomous bile towards great men as this very blood boiling soundtrack. Which, of course, the film's made by two Irishmen, so like they know the disturbing nature of using this fucking bitch's voice. That's not even a strong enough word for her, really. If there's like another word that's like graduated from cunt, that's what she is, okay? Um, but it's like they recognize exactly what they're doing, and I think it's fantastic. It's so great because it adds a real chill to the spine when you hear it, and it very much like punctuates the points of what they're trying to do with the film. So as disturbing as it is, and how much you should prepare yourself for hearing this very venomous bile which just infect your ears. Um, I do feel like I'm a little bit more deaf today than I was yesterday. So just be careful. Maybe go to the doctors afterwards. Just clean it out a little bit. Um, but this is one of the things that I actually really loved about this movie. And so they really paint the British antagonist in this very like diabolical Bond villain way, which I loved, of course. It's like we got this really shadowy lighting, this sterile, emotionless settings, perverted low T scheming, craven back channeling, cowardice manipulation, which is very much contrasted with Mrs. Quigley and Mrs. Higgins, because on the other hand, they're super warm, inviting, loving, loyal Sigma matriarchs, these two. I just loved them. And they really, throughout the film, they keep hope alive, the movement progressing. And even though Mrs. Quigley, like, she's a little bit hesitant to get involved with IRA dealings, because it's like, well, they kind of operate on this, like, any means necessary type deal. So she's a little bit like hesitant to get involved with that. She's this very like pure-hearted school teacher. But she's quickly kind of galvanized by the very loud and proud Mrs. Higgins, who's a staunch supporter of the efforts. A good woman, great woman. She's even teaching her daughter to dissent in the very same way. It was a very proud moment watching this film. And what I liked about this movie is like it being very like kind of female focused. It's like we bring in the very much like the personal is very much political. Mrs. Higgins, of course, her family life has been torn apart by British brutality. Mrs. Quigley is dismayed at the treatment of her son and family under this very repressive occupation. And she becomes very charmed by the friendship and bond that Mrs. Higgins offers. And, she's kind of persuaded to join forces, at least on the peripheral. Um, all the while, Jerry and Bobby are getting acquainted in prison. So, Bobby, up until this point, has been involved in the blanket and dirty protests, which will definitely be much more highlighted in the Double Dose feature. But this one, it's like we get much more of the blanket protests, much less of the dirty protests, which I think makes these two such a great double feature because, it's like this one doesn't need to go there to for its point, whereas the other one, it's very necessary, and very essential and very haunting. Um, but we do get a lot of the blanket protests, and we get Bobby in both of these films evokes this very like Christ-like image. Like not only in this one does he look like the embodiment of Christ, um, it's like he also is portrayed in this way in like a literal, but also like a lot of poetic ways as well. Like when faced with cruel and unusual punishment, Bobby reacts in increasingly self sacrificial ways. He's the first to offer himself to hunger in order for humane treatment and status of political prisoner. Um, and I think what made this film a little bit more like uplifting and likely more palatable to more commercial audiences than the one that we'll discuss next is instead of focusing solely on Bobby's suffering, the film chooses to follow the effect he has on the outside. Like when he got elected as a member of parliament. The mothers, the daughters, the women kind of take the front seat here and they start organizing together and they ensure his victory and, hopeful end to the prison abuses and the survival of their sons. And it's really important to note in this film, how sympathetic this is to the families. They never stop fighting. And these people are so courageous, so strong. And they really become this sort of integral part of the future of Irish nationals. It's a populist movement through and through. It's like of the people, by the people, for the people. While the IRA leadership is sort of focusing their efforts on assassinating prison guards. And I think by showing these two kind of sides operating under what they think is best, it sets the stage for the eventual historical union that if you've read up on this type of history, that is coming. Of course, it's like it's going to bring these two wings together. That's going to later introduce the Armalite and ballot box strategy. And the film, of course, like portrays the ballot box as much more like of a promising fight. And I think history will show, though. It's like, yeah, I mean, obviously they've gained a lot more political power, but I think it's like you need both. Okay, I'm not gonna wade into that, but but because like the film shows, like, okay, well, like this political violence is akin to kind of sitting on one's hands. But I mean, in my opinion, these prison guards are war criminals. I think like definitely both of these films will show you that, will showcase that, will illustrate that in a very harsh light. Um, and maybe they even deserve execution, right? Like, but it's not really achieving the necessary advancements for the cause at this point. And Bobby Sands, of course, dies not too long after his Parliament victory. And even though it kind of seems like the ballot side of it, it's like, well, the battle's lost. It's like the war for public opinion was won. This is where it really kind of solidified and cemented. Like 100,000 people attended Bobby Sands' funeral. This is what winning the war looks like. This is what, like, he didn't die in vain. None of the subsequent 9 men who died in the hunger strikes, none of them died in vain. This is what winning the war looks like. And it's just like God, the film shows his funeral in such a breathtaking, beautiful light. You can't help, no matter what side you're on, shedding, a tear or two at that one. I mean, it's so fucking like affecting. And the film, of course, which I thought was amazing because I was actually thinking this the whole time when I was watching it, is like 9 other men died. Like, of course, we're focusing on Bobby Sands, but it's like, 9 other men died. And then the film at the end scrolls their names to commemorate them, which I thought was like a really respectful, superhumanist choice that I loved. Um, of course, the families eventually intervene. And this was a move that history will show you, that the film definitely shows you. It's like this is all but forced upon them by just repulsive fucking British plotting. It's sick. It's like it's just they're disgusting. They're disgusting human beings. They're just sickos. I can't even call them human beings because it's like you put that on the family. Like, oh, how far are you gonna let this go? Oh, you're gonna let him die? You're gonna let him starve to death? You're gonna let him go through all of this anguish? Um, of course, the families eventually intervened, saved their sons' lives. I mean, who can blame them? And but what really I think saves the movement, saves the hunger strike, um, is like these men have now become martyrs. Like I said before, like it really won the war of public opinion. It laid bare this disease of British colonization. And bleh, I guess who must not be named really cemented herself as this very loathsome, chilling lizard. Not even a human, just dead behind the eyes skin suit. Um, this, a gaping black hole for a heart. Um, and in doing so, it's like she made the resistance more determined, more prosperous, more resolute. And I will say about this movie, like, I'm not one that says, like, people cannot and should not make films outside of their own identity. I think that's ridiculous. I think you should. Some of my favorite movies are like men making them about women. So, like, I'm not one to say that, but I will say in this instance, I really did think this one benefits so greatly. Crafted by two patriots. Sunshine boys. Hmm. How's my Gaelic there? Was it good? Was it okay? I don't know. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm testing it out. And I'm stepping into a little bravery of my own here. Trying to speak a little bit of Gaelic, and I don't know if I'm nailing it, but we shall find out. I'm gonna keep going. I'm never giving up. I will learn this language. Um, But of course, like, this was my initial fear with the film Hunger, right? This is directed by the British Steve McQueen, not to be confused by the American actor. Of course, I do think the British Steve McQueen, the director, has kind of like, made a name in his own right at this point. I was a little bit fearful going in to this one when I watched it for the first time many years ago. I was like, I don't know, can a British guy really like get and understand and be as empathetic as possible in this type of situation? Because I feel like, my blood has such a connection to this. I don't know. I was a little bit nervous going into it the first time around. And I actually like did not like see it in a theater or anything like that because I was sort of like, I don't know, this can go really anti-RE really fast. You know, but I found through watching this film when I watched it kind of not too long after it came out, I was like, it's actually directed by a British man becomes its strength, I feel like. Of course, the film starts with a prison guard soaking his bloodied hands in the sink. He's checking under his car for a bomb. You see his wife looking out the window, like taking a sigh of relief when it doesn't, like, his car ignition doesn't end in an explosion. And that sounds like, is it, and that could go a very badly sympathetic way there. But it doesn't. It's shot in like this very like Nazi war criminal type way. It's like really like showing this man that's unaffected by the unmerciful violence that he's perpetuating. And to me, he's even more unsympathetic than like as somebody living under a fascist regime. It's like he can simply change jobs with no repercussions, and yet he stays put, not because he really enjoys it, but it's become a part of his routine. And his indifference is later going to be contrasted in the film when we see like a British young man that's on the prison riot squad that sort of has this complete breakdown at the callous savagery that he's expected to perform. But this film definitely takes like a different direction than the first film. It approaches it with like a much more artistic objectivism. Of course, like, it makes a difference depending on the person approaching it, like what kind of narrative that you're gonna get. And the filmmakers of the first film, as Irishmen themselves, as I mentioned, like they experienced firsthand the repressive events of the Troubles. So that's of course it's gonna color their story as a much more subjective, inspiring rally cry, which I loved. Like there's room for all different takes. I feel like on this has opened my perspective a little bit. Because it's like it's really impossible for these guys to divorce themselves and be simply like this floating camera voyeuristically capturing a historical moment where the personal becoming political is so deeply embedded in the first film. Hunger gives the viewer their very own experience with this. McQueen immerses us uncomfortably into the dirty protests. You can almost smell the shit on the walls, the piss buckets pouring out into the hallways, rotting food, the gruesome body transformation that Bobby Sands is forced to undergo. But don't mistake McQueen for being as heartless as his country's history. As a Brit, he can remove himself enough for his pictures to speak for themselves. It allows him to curate in a way that someone directly traumatized can't. In this way, this becomes Steve McQueen's last temptation of Christ. Long-haired Bobby, he's dragged, tormented, much like Christ, walking into his own crucifixion. Michael Fassbender commits so wholeheartedly, you end up fearing for his safety. The makeup team depicts his decay grislier than any horror film I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot for me. Steadfast in his devotion to the cause, he has one of the most awe-striking dialogues with the great Liam Cunningham that distills Bobby in the only spoken words that we need from him. Like I said, it's McQueen's last temptation of Christ, if that arouses your interest, which it should. Instead of wading into overt politics or collective ideology, it's about one man's extraordinary fortitude. Every step of the way, there's a reason to stop. Doctors, priests, the steam of some of the most appealing prison hospital food that's maybe ever existed beckons. Even when he wins a seat in Parliament, he can't concede. He's not there yet. The journey's not over. His purpose not yet achieved. He must persevere to the other side of torture, anguish, physical decomposition, like a good Catholic boy and an even better countryman. For the sins of Great Britain and the prosperity of a free Ireland, beautiful meditation that creates its own religious verse. Bobby Sands, Francis Hughes, Bremen McCreesh, Patsy O'Hara, Joe McDonnell, Martin Herson, Kevin Lynch, Kieran Doherty, Thomas McElway, Michael Devaney, Chuck Yarlar, boys.